At least 2 people died in the crash, and the highway is blocked in both directions. And, of course, yesterday, BP took all its Victorian petrol tankers off the road after a 4-year-old boy, his mother, and another woman died when a trailer came loose and smashed into 2 cars. Now, we learned this morning the Transport Workers Union says it will immediately commence legal action against rogue operators in the fuel industry following this fatal tanker crash on the New South Wales-Victoria border. The Transport Workers Union Acting National Secretary is Michael Cain. Joins us on the line right now. Morning, Michael.
Hi, Grant.
Yeah, something does have to be done. We've said this many times before. What's different this time?
You know, it's such a tragedy, and it has happened before. You have to cast your mind back only less than 10 months to Mona Vale with that dreadful accident there.
I went past that area about a minute and a half before on the big roundabout. So, and with a 4-year-old child on board as well, so it could have been me involved in that accident.
I think that's what everyone in Australia thinks when they hear this. Our thoughts obviously go out to the families today and the terrible crash in Campsie. But the thing is, Grant, that this is an industry that is under pressure. It's being squeezed for every last dollar by those massive economic interests at the very top.
Well, see, that's where your problem is, and that's the area that needs to be addressed. And from what I understand, talking to truckies that I know, that pressure still is on, even though governments have said we've had reassurances from those big companies that it's not happening anymore. Well, you know what? Bull crap to that. It is happening.
It is happening, and we're not going to take those assurances anymore. A tribunal was put in place by the Gillard government which can deal with these issues. It can hold these massive economic interests to account, and we're going to be making an application just as soon as we can get the papers organised to this tribunal, specifically this time in the oil, fuel and gas sector, because, you know, you come off second best when you have an accident with a truck, and when it's full of fuel, you've got just an absolute recipe for disaster, as these accidents have shown. So we'll be taking this action. We want to make sure that before the driver gets behind the wheel, I know it sounds obvious, Grant, but before they get behind the wheel, the truck's maintained. There's not those pressures on those drivers, and they've got the confidence to raise these maintenance issues without fears for their job.
That's right. Well, for this reason, BP has taken all its Victorian petrol tankers off the road. Well, that tells me they knew there's a serious problem.
Well, I know, isn't it an indication? I mean, that's absolutely the right thing to do, but, you know, it is an indication of these pressures and of some serious concern that they have. And what we want to do is make sure that these issues are addressed before the incident happens, because all too often we're here talking about this after someone's lost their life and after communities are in mourning, and we really have to find a way to put an end to that. And this tribunal has the power to do it, and we'll be calling on those major companies to support our application and get change and stop the tragedy. Yeah,
look, industry research does show 1 in 4 tanker drivers face economic pressure to speed. And as I mentioned before, that's still on, even though there's been reassurances that it's not. I can tell you now, you've got those commercial interests saying to the truck driver, if you can't get to Sydney or Brisbane within the 10-hour time frame that we're giving you, well, then we'll give the job to somebody else. Well, that's the kind of pressure they're under.
That is the kind of pressure, exactly the kind of pressure, and for the almighty dollar.
And the thing is, it's not in the interest of that truck driver to report that to anyone, because, I mean, it's his economic future as well, isn't it?
That's right. Well, either he loses his job or he knows his employer loses their contract. Either way, it means they don't have a job.
Well, that's the parlor state we're in at the moment. That's what they're up against, and that's what's got to change. So how can it be changed?
Well, this tribunal has the power to make orders against those massive economic interests, and to say to them that you're not allowed to have the work done until you've got certain safety matters in place, and until you make sure that enough money's flowing down to those drivers to make sure that they're rested, they're trained, and that they've got the confidence to speak up about maintenance.
That's right. Time to get tough on that, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, and pull out all stops to make sure it's fixed. Well done. Thank you for that.
Thanks, Grant.
All the best. Thank you. Transport Workers Union Acting National Secretary Michael Cain.